Welcome to the English with Kirsty podcast from www.englishwithkirsty.com. Here I'll be sharing with you tips, information and other learning resources so that you can improve your business English. Hello and welcome again to the English with Kirsty podcast, and today we have two things to talk about. Firstly, we're going to talk about training and development because this is something that people often do talk about in their own native languages, but it's also useful to be able to talk about these things in English and to look at some of the vocabulary used for doing that. And then afterwards I'm going to tell you about a special code that I have for podcast listeners, so it's a discount code. And I will give you more details about that at the end. So, training and development. This is something that you will probably speak about with your managers or your colleagues in terms of what courses you are doing or you want to do and how you want to develop your skills. So, how do we decide what training we need? Well, different companies do it in different ways. There is sometimes mandatory training. So mandatory training is something that everybody has to do if they're doing a specific function, or maybe it's everybody who's new to the company has to do this training. It's everybody has to do it. There's no question about that. It's just something you need to do. And sometimes there are training needs assessments, either for individual people or for the whole team. So that means that it's an assessment to look at what skills people have, what skills people need, and where the gaps are, and what can be done to fill those gaps. Sometimes companies have a personal development record for each member of staff, so you can see what training you've done so far, whether you've completed that, and then you can plan what you're going to do in the future. So it's a way for managers to see how the member of staff is developing, what areas they're working on, and how that's going, and in what way they're working on their development, whether it's a specific course or gaining experience in a new way. And so that's a way to monitor the personal development for the member of staff as well, so they can see what they're doing. Sometimes there are training frameworks. So if you're in a specific role or at a specific grade, you have like a pathway through this framework, training that you should complete, or training that's specific to certain functions. But some companies take a more proactive approach and say, okay, you're the employees, you know what you want to develop, what skills you need, and then the employees are encouraged to take a more active role in saying, okay, this is what I've identified, this is what I'd like to do, and this is how I'd like to do it. So this varies from company to company. So now we're going on to look at the types of training. And by the way, all this information, all the vocabulary is on the notes page for this episode. So if you go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 9, you will find all this information. And you'll also find the information that's relevant to the code, so which products you can apply the code to at the end. So, types of training. The traditional type of training is classroom training. So everybody who's doing this specific course goes to a room with the trainer and they do their training there. So it's not at their desk, it's somewhere different, and then however long the course lasts, they spend that time in the training room and do the training there. There is still a lot of classroom training going on, but there are also moves to online training because it saves time, it saves money, and employees don't have to leave their place of work. They can do it from their desks. That may also mean that there are other distractions because they are still at their desks, but there is no travel involved, and people can suit it to their schedules what they're doing. And it also means that people can do it from home or from other places if they want to, and if that's built into the course, if you can get access to the course from outside your place of work. Customized training is, so it's not a standard course. The course is built around what the customer needs whether that's the group of people who are doing the course or it can be an individual. But customized means it's not straight out of the box, it's built around the needs that have been identified. Self-paced training or self-study programs are programs where people work on their own and they work at a time that's good for them. So they don't have to attend certain lectures or online seminars. There's video content or audio content. It's a bit like my email audio programs, but people can work on their own. That's why it's self-paced, because it's you go at your own speed, your own pace. You can do things again if you want to. You can work out how much time you have and then build your training around that. So that's for people to work on their own. That's why it's called self-study as well. You're not studying yourself, but you're studying by yourself. So that's how it got its name. Accredited training. This isn't so much about how the training takes place, whether it's online or in a classroom, but you get an accreditation at the end if you pass. So sometimes sometimes you just get accreditation if you attend. That's enough. Attending is sufficient. And sometimes it's exam-based, where you have to pass an exam in order to get the accreditation for the training. Distance learning. There is some crossover here with online training, because often online training can be considered as distance learning, but the distance learning doesn't have to have an online component to it. So, for example, my writing course is distance learning. People receive the information by email, they complete the tasks by email, send it back, and I send them my comments by email. So there's no actually online meetings going on, but similarly they're not attending classroom training, so it's distance learning because the trainer and the person who's being trained are not in the same place. Then you have induction programs. These are things when somebody starts working for a company, there are often things that they have to do to have learned that are specific to that company, and so there's often an induction program that helps them to learn about the company, the way things are done, and probably about their role as well. There can be training with a mentor. So this is somebody who is more experienced, has probably been doing the job longer, and the newer people are matched up with somebody who's been in the job for longer, and they work together and learn from the more experienced person. On the job training, you hear that sometimes it doesn't have to be a specific training course, but it's learning by doing. So the more you do an activity, you'll probably become faster at it. You'll learn a system because you have to use the system, and the longer you've been using that system, hopefully the better you'll become at using it. So you're learning by doing, and that's often referred to as on-the-job training. There's also work shadowing, which means that you spend time watching another person do their job, and you can ask questions and learn how that works. And that's either a job that you're going to do, or it can be completely different jobs in completely different parts of the organization, so that people gain a better understanding of how other teams and other departments work, and in doing so they can probably work together more effectively. That's the idea behind it, so that if you meet the other people and see how they work, you can probably make your interactions with them better if you understand that better. Stretch assignments. These are things that the employee is given support by the manager and by other members of the team to do something that isn't part of their normal role, is perhaps out of their comfort zone a bit, but it gives them the ability to develop their skills and their knowledge by doing a task which is a bit of a stretch for them, a bit harder than they would normally do, but because they have the support, it's believed that they can do it, because they can go and ask questions and ask for advice, but still they have the responsibility for this task. And also there's training, there's in-house training that's provided by either the training department, if you have one, or people who are skilled in a certain area, who know a lot about a certain topic, or there's training provided by an external training provider. So whether they come to you or whether they do it online, it's the difference between in-house and external training there. And there's the 360-degree performance process, which means that people feedback is gathered from people's peers, people who work for them and their managers, and then they can identify training needs that way. And there are some verbs that I've listed here for talking about these needs. So I would like to develop my skills, so like my speaking skills. I would like to improve my knowledge of. I would like to gain a better understanding of. I would like to learn more about. I would like to improve my skills. I have a knowledge gap in terms of that I would like to redress. Okay, so they're all a list of things that you may say when you're identifying a training need. And finally, what are the results? So sometimes you get formal certificates or qualifications that are recognised. You gain knowledge, experience, or new abilities that you didn't have before. You're allowed to do tasks that you wouldn't have been able to do before because you hadn't been on the training, or you can apply for promotions, other roles now because you have this knowledge and experience that you didn't have before. You may be given additional responsibilities in your own job. You hopefully feel more confident in carrying out these new tasks because you have this new knowledge. You stay up to date in your field, which is good because in many fields things are moving on and changing, so it's good to have the most up-to-date information. You can add the training to your CV so that you can set yourself apart from other candidates. You've had the training another person may not have, so you're in a better position because you're better qualified. It's good to develop people and not just skills, so hopefully you'll learn as an individual and not just learn how to do things, but you'll develop as a person as well. You'll be more productive, which is arguably one of the underlying reasons why people are sent on training courses, because the company wants them to be more productive. But also for you, that's a good thing, because it means that you're developing and you can do your job not just faster, but you can do other elements of the job that you wouldn't have been able to do before. And finally, we should never stop learning. So even if you're really good at something, there will always be more things that you can learn. So rather than standing still, it's always good to keep learning and keep moving on and gaining new knowledge. So as I said, all this information is on www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast/episode 9, as well as the information about the code. So it's my birthday in September, and I'd like to give my listeners something too, and that's a code, and the code is birthday 161. So the English word birthday 161. And if you use that code, you can get £10 off any of the products that are listed on my homepage, but also the podcast page. So all of my prices are in British pounds. £10 does change, but it's about €13.75, around that. It may be a bit more or a bit less when the code is used, but that's why I'm keeping it to £10, because all my prices are in pounds. So have a look. If you want to use this code, have a look and see what the products are. There are 5 different ones on offer, and see if one of them will be useful for you, because then if you buy that product, you can have this £10 reduction, this money off code. So one is the Business English course. That's a 12-module course, and it covers a number of areas in business English. Then there is the grammar course. You can either have one grammar module if there's one issue that's difficult for you in terms of English grammar and it's on my list, then you can just take the one module, or you can put together your own course to cover areas that are important to you in grammar. There's a list of 10 modules, so you can pick your own modules to build a course. The third thing is the writing challenge, which I mentioned before when I was talking about distance learning. So there is no online tuition there, but you receive feedback. There are tasks to complete to practice different types of writing, and then you receive comprehensive feedback from me on those tasks. So by email, you send me the task by email and I send them back by email, and I help you to develop your writing skills. Then there is the audio courses. I talked about them last week, so I won't say so much about those, but there's one about effective email communication and there's one about networking. So that's audio content and information on the web pages, so you don't book training sessions with me, but every day for 10 or 15 days you receive information, audio information and written information about those topics. And the last one is the language and communication training, so that helps people with their conversation skills and their speaking skills, and that's individualized training for people to look at what they need and to help them to become more confident in speaking English. So all of those are listed on the podcast page, and if you're interested in any of those and you use the code, which is birthday161, then you can use the code and you'll get the £10 off. The code can be used once per person and it's valid until the 31st of December 2015, and the training sessions are subject to availability. So I hope that you found the training vocabulary useful today, and I look forward to hearing from some of you soon. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the English with Kirsty podcast. If you have any questions or comments, my email address is kirsty@englishwithkirsty.com, or you can go to www.englishwithkirsty.com/podcast, where you'll find information about the individual episodes.